what we've just learned moments ago, that Yemen has attacked the Najran airport using drones. And it seems they said that they precisely hit the targets in that airport. It comes in a response of Saudi Arabia using the drones invading the airspace, and they're saying that they're responding to that. We have the Arbaeen, as you know, and in Iran, in Iraq, and the latest attack on the part of Saudi Arabia was on Iraq together with the United States. Many people are arguing maybe right after the Arbaeen, there would be some sort of response on the part of the Iraqi resistance. And what is the situation between Saudi Arabia and Yemen and together with Iraq?
Well, I've advised your viewers on multiple occasions and on different shows about reading the book Resistance by Alistair Crook. And I think it says a lot about the culture of resistance. And of course, going to Tehran by the Leverets. But Arbaeen is a very important day for people to understand. I think to understand this is very useful. It's the 40th day after the anniversary of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein in Karbala, when he stood up against the tyrant of his era in defense of the oppressed and the marginalized. And he refused to bow down, and his household, they were martyred, and his family was taken prisoner, and his sister, when she was imprisoned, she was resilient and spread the message of resistance. So Ashura is a very, very important day in the Iranian calendar, and Arbaeen, being the 40th day after the anniversary of Ashura, is a very important day as well in Iran, in Iraq, and Lebanon, and across the axis of resistance, and Yemen. And and there's a walk that happens every place, as many of your viewers probably know, in that goes to Karbala from different Iraqi cities, and millions of Iranians go every year. And in Iran, they have this walk in different cities. In Tehran, we had a huge crowd from a square, Imam Hussein Square in central Tehran, all the way to the south to Shah Abdulazim. Now, so the focus during these days is this are these commemorations and these gatherings, and the resistance in Iraq has basically said that its response, its retaliation, will come after Arbaeen, which in Iraq is tomorrow, and in Iran it's today, because of the moon, and uh, so it's so today is Arbaeen, tomorrow in Iraq it's Arbaeen. So the Saudis have to be very concerned about what happens in the days ahead, because they and the Americans together bombed uh, Iraqi Popular Mobilization Forces, and these are part of the Iraqi armed forces. What is often said in the Western media, they're not Shia militia. I was with them when I and a couple of other Iranians were with them when they liberated um, parts of northern Iraq, and in particular Arbil, and and Mosul, and the, we had dinner, or not dinner, but we spent the evening with a Christian uh, uh, Popular Mobilization Force commander. Throughout a day and a half, we were embedded in the Popular Mobilization Forces that were predominantly Sunni and Sunni parts of northern Iraq. So it's an Iraqi force. These are not Shia militias. These are linked to the what those all those uh, assets that were bombed by the Americans and the Saudis belong to the Iraqi government. They belong to the Iraqi armed forces, and they murdered a number of Iraqis plus 5 Iranian trainers. So after Arbaeen, the Saudis are definitely going to be uh, much more concerned and worried about the response. And also, since 5 Iranians were killed, uh, there is there's a lot of anger in Iran. The Saudis have sent a message to Iran actually claiming that we did not even participate in the airstrikes. Uh, so they're saying that the Americans did it. But when the airstrikes were carried out, that's not what they said. So the Iranians are looking into this to see how credible this uh, claim is by the Saudis. But it obviously shows how worried the Saudi regime is about the future. And remember, Saudi Arabia, Nima, its name is called Saudi Arabia. It's named after a family, the Saud family. That is not a an entity that people are going to sacrifice themselves for, a country that's named after a family. But anyway, and also we have Yemen, which carried out a strike today against the Saudi regime, striking from what I've just heard before uh, coming onto your show, a radar installation. So, which means that they're preparing for future attacks, obviously. But in any case, there is relative quiet in the region, but events could, if the events in the days ahead could be very different from the relative quiet that we see today. I mean, Iran struck Kuwait, as you know, and Iran struck a couple of ships near the Strait of Hormuz to enforce its command and control in accordance with the MOU. So it's not. A lot of things are not happening, but these are all significant, and they do show that the axis of resistance is what Trump would like to say, locked and loaded. And after Arbaeen, it's probably going to be even more so. And of course, we saw Trump's threats again last night. Apparently, he had uh, heartburn, or his dinner didn't go down well with him. So he was again out angry and uh, warning that Iran, they have to have an agreement with the United States within the next 24 hours or so. But Iran is not going to negotiate with the United States. That's not the plan. Dr. Araghchi, the foreign minister, he is in Iraq as we speak, in participating in the Arbaeen walk, and the others are all in Tehran. So there are no negotiations with the United States. And the negotiations with Oman are only about the Strait of Hormuz, nothing else, and how to manage the Strait of Hormuz. But the Iranians have said very clearly to Oman that we will have full supervision over everything that happens. In other words, there cannot be two corridors, one managed by Oman, one managed by Iran, where they can choose which one to use, and so Iran would not know who's coming and who's going. That's not going to be an option. So either they do it together or it's managed by Iran. But in any case, Iran has to have full knowledge of what sort of ships want to pass through the strait, and of course, there will be a fee for each ship that wants to pass through the strait.
What is your understanding of the the because Donald Trump said at the last moment he has decided to cancel the attack on Iranians. You see Israeli media saying that they were prepared to do everything. They're somehow disappointed with Donald Trump, what he has done, canceling the attack. On the part of Iranians, we've learned that they are prepared for the attack, they're prepared to respond. What is the message from Donald Trump? He's talking about, just tweeted, he said that the, you know two ways of coming out of this: making a deal or total surrender, which is not something new from Donald Trump. What does deal mean in your opinion when it comes to Donald Trump? What does he want from Iran that it was not mentioned in that MOU, that document
Well,
that was signed by two sides?
he doesn't want the MOU, obviously, but that's 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 the only thing that's on the table. But Iran won't accept the MOU in its current form. Iran will accept the MOU plus, and so, for example, Yemen, Gaza will be more bold in the uh, negotiations. The issue of the siege on Yemen has to be resolved. The ceasefire in Gaza has to be resolved. Although, the problem with Gaza is that regional countries, as you know, went to Egypt, Sharm el Sheikh, and they had they basically endorsed Trump. The leaders of Muslim countries in the region and other countries beyond the region, they went and endorsed Trump and his fake ceasefire, and they basically allowed the Israelis to occupy well over 50% of Gaza, the Israeli regime. And since the ceasefire, we've had probably well over 1,200, maybe 1,300 murders by the Israeli regime. The last couple of days were particularly bloody. I think the day before yesterday, 8 children were among the people who were slaughtered in Gaza. So there's no ceasefire. But thanks to the leaders of the region who, it's well known, and anyone can go and look and see who was there, who went and endorsed Trump and who whitewashed Trump and who became guarantors of this supposed guarantors of this ceasefire, and they praised Trump in the written document. It makes it more difficult for Iran to make demands with regards to Gaza because uh, because these countries effectively force Hamas to accept the ceasefire, and they endorsed Trump. So Gaza is an issue, but Iran is going to be more harsh when it comes to the Gaza issue. And as I said, the issue about Yemen will have to be resolved. But also, Iran will demand certain things upfront. For example, I mean, again, I'm speculating, but Iran's stolen assets will have to be uh, released. This because we saw in the MOU, Trump basically was not he was not serious, as we expected. He was not serious in implementing the MOU, and he carried out none of his obligations except for lifting the siege, basically. But that was for his own selfish gains. It was because of the shortage of energy. So, yeah, Trump is not going to gain anything through threats, and he's not going to gain anything if he does carry out his threats. It is quite possible that, because it's Trump, it's quite possible that he will do something crazy and that he will launch major attacks on Iranian critical infrastructure, even though he backed down 5 times at least in recent weeks. But um, nothing is impossible with this person in the White House, and especially with the Zionists and the Zionist lobby constantly putting pressure. We see how they're how online and in the media how active they are demanding uh, all out war and all out destruction. I mean, these people are uh, they're worse than Nazis. They speak about Nazis. They go far beyond them. They're open and uh, they're very open about their views. They're genocidal and they're open about their genocidal behavior. And while journalists in the West like to deny that this is a genocide like Pierce Morgan, they're basically doing it uh, for the sake of the Israelis because they are under the influence of Zionists. They're under the influence of the Zionist lobby. Hundreds of thousands of people, Nima, have been killed in Gaza. It's not 80,000. Those are the bodies that were handed over to the hospitals, the Ministry of Health. But hundreds of thousands of people have died because of illness and lack of medicine. The Israelis won't allow in food for people who need a particular diet. They don't allow them so that these children, these infants would die. They do it on purpose. They don't allow medicine in for people with diabetes and all these other illnesses so that people die. The objective is to cut down the population. I mean, these are monsters and creatures that are unique in human history because they're doing it in front of the eyes of the world. And those people who facilitate it, those people who cover for it, they are equally evil. They're just as evil. They're enablers of this genocide. But that's why the world has turned against them, and that's why the world looks upon them with such discussed. So Trump may actually carry out these attacks against Iran. It's not impossible because look at what these people do in Gaza and get away with it. You see demands for assaults on Iran and a major assault on Iran coming from the Zionists or from former generals or people who are who are linked to power, or journalists, or people who make the case for war against Iran. Uh, but Iran is prepared, and Iran is not going to back down. Some people get upset when say this, but the axis of resistance is unique, and the culture of the axis of resistance is, and there's nothing similar to it in this region and across the world. And it's that culture that makes these countries, these entities, so special. Whether it's Iran, Yemen, uh, or Lebanon, or the culture of resistance in Iraq. They will not forsake Palestine, and they're making huge sacrifices, but they'll not forsake Palestine, and they will not appease the empire and allow it to remain the hegemon of West Asia. So, come what may, the Iranians will remain in charge of the Strait of Hormuz. Um, Perhaps Trump will use some deal between Iran and Oman to claim some sort of victory, but have no doubt Iran will not do an agreement with Oman that uh, concedes Iran's authority and Iran's status over the entire strait. But I don't think he'll do that. I think that Trump is incapable of finding a way out of this. The fact that he comes out every couple of days and makes new threats basically traps him. It prevents him from seeking or from being able to use any potential off ramp. There are off ramps that he could use. He could pull back and claim victory and say that he's done tremendous damage to Iran and brought its, that sort of nonsense, destroyed its nuclear program, destroyed its military infrastructure, its navy, its air force, and Iran is on its knees. And he could talk nonsense and then walk away, and his cult followers will probably continue to support him as long as the U.S. economy doesn't collapse, which it's going down pretty fast. But as long as he is able to maintain some minimum in the United States, I think his cult following, they don't care what he does. They'll just follow him no matter where he goes and what he does. So, but he won't do that. And the Zionists won't let him. His ego won't let him. His stupidity won't let him, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. So he's trapped. He's trapped himself. But we'll have to wait and see what happens.
One of the reasons that he somehow backed down is the way that Iran can retaliate. And the retaliation, let's assume Donald Trump is preparing for war, the way that he was talking about, yeah, I'm attacking power grids, infrastructure, I'm going to destroy everything in Iran. And then later on, he said that Saudi Arabia, all these Middle Eastern countries, together with Iran, they're calling him and begging not to attack Iran. And was there any sort of call, any sort of talk between Iran and the United States before Donald Trump canceling the attack? Iran somehow begging the United States or telling the United States something. What was that?
I would be surprised if any one of your viewers by now thought that there was any communication between Iran and the United States. Because your viewers are obviously people who know what's going on. And I'm not offering a great deal of knowledge to them. Many of them, I'm sure, if they were on your show, they could say all this, everything that I'm saying, probably, and they'd be able to add some things that I wouldn't know or be able to remember for this show. So of course not. Definitely not. There is no communication, and the this is not the first time. It's he's been making this claim so many times that it's just boring listening to him. And I don't even think his cult following believes it, but they'll just follow him anyway. That 30% or 32% or 33% of the American public who are MAGA, uh, he can. What was it? What was it that he once said many years ago? He said, "I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, and my supporters would continue to support me." That's how they are. He said that I think in 2000, about almost a decade ago, I think. But it's true even today. So it doesn't matter if he's lying or not for them, unless the ship begins to sink. And I think, Nima, the situation is dangerous. Look at what's happening in Japan, and all of these things are linked to the crisis. I mean, people wonder why the price of oil has not gone up so much. Part of it is manipulation, of course. Part of it is this is not the we have to keep an eye on the spot market, what the real oil costs. But also the issue is that there's a huge shortage of refined oil because of all the damage done, and because the Strait of Hormuz is closed, because of the tax on Russia, because of the Chinese preventing exports. So the shortage works at multiple levels, and of course there are other uh, you know uh, products that come from the Persian Gulf that are going to create huge damage that we are and are creating huge damage that we're not seeing yet. Helium, fertilizers, or we're not noticing. We know they're happening. It's already causing inflation, but people don't notice the link. But the events in Japan, I think, are very dangerous. Uh, red light. It's a red light that's flashing, I'm sure, for Trump's team. But in any case, no, the Iranians are going to continue to remain steadfast. The Iranians are not going to relinquish the Strait of Hormuz, come what may. If the United States launches an all-out war, Iran will fight that all-out war, but Iran will not uh, give up the Strait of Hormuz. That's just a final decision that's been made.